Now, you're here as well because you want more information about various aspects of your move to Portugal. So the first people we've invited to talk you through one crucial aspect, your pensions and your tax planning, is our friend Matthew Christman from Blevins Franks. So Matthew, I'd like to ask you to come up and tell us a little bit more. And speak close to the microphone as you can hear.
Thank you, Christina. What a lovely video, I hadn't seen that before. My name's Matthew Christman. I live in Lisbon. I've lived in Portugal for the past 18 years. Beautiful Lisbon. If you haven't been there, you should visit. We have the office in Cascais, but as a company, we have an office in the Algarve as well. But we cover the whole of Portugal. I'm up in Porto and the Minho regularly as well. So wherever you're moving to in Portugal, we do offer that advice. So I'm going to give a presentation today firstly about Blevins Franks, and then I'm going to give a case study that will show you the tax benefits of moving to Portugal, and on top of that, the advice that we offer. This presentation is about 15 minutes, and then I'll be passing over to one of my colleagues afterwards. So first of all, who we are at Blevins Franks. We are the leading international tax and wealth management advisors to UK nationals living in Portugal. You can see behind me a map here, a map of Europe, of the 7 jurisdictions that we work in. What I'm going to give you is a few figures here about Blevins Franks for you to take away. First of all, we've been around for over 45 years now as a company in countries like France, Spain, Portugal, and the UK. We now work in 7 countries and advise in 7 different tax jurisdictions. We have 25 offices across the EU, and with our office in London as well. We have an office down in St James's Square. And this number is the most important number, I'd say. It's the number of partners and private client managers. I'm a partner at Blevins Franks, but what this number says is the number of licensed and regulated advisors we have in our core countries, advising you, our clients, along that journey. We're supported, our 52 partners and private client managers are supported by 200 employees at Blevins Franks, 200 plus employees, and we advise 5,100 families, and we manage just over 3 billion euros for our clients. In terms of the advice and our advisors, is that we are UK nationals living in Portugal, the 2 offices I mentioned before, providing the cross-border expertise, and we based locally, so we're there living in Lisbon and Cascais. If you're moving to those areas, we're on the ground. We're not flying in and out, we're on the ground. We are supported by tax specialists in the UK. It's in my office in Lisbon. We do have Stephen Morris, who's a senior tax advisor. We're supported by investment specialists. We're supported by pension specialists. So it really is full holistic financial planning. Now, why Portugal? Well, you've seen that fantastic video. What I can add to that is, for someone who's lived there for nearly 20 years, it's the 3rd safest country in the world to live in by the Global Peace Index, and you really feel it there. I brought up a daughter in Portugal, and I can tell you both schooling and sort of health and safety there. It's an extremely safe place. You have it's obviously extremely sunny, great climate, and a great place to live. But on top of that, financial planning wise, tax wise, Portugal has a lot of tax benefits. Now, a lot of you have probably heard of this NHR status. I'm going to touch on it, but Jeffrey Graham, who's after me, is going to talk about it in more detail, so I won't steal your thunder too much, Jeffrey. But non-habitual residency, NHR status, is a 10-year tax status that you could benefit from, but it's not the only thing. It seems to be the headline. NHR Golden Visa, NHR Golden Visa, they speak about a lot in the press, but Portugal has a lot more than that. It's got an attractive regime, tax regime, once NHR is finished after 10 years, and there is no gift tax as well in Portugal. It's not advertised very much, but there's no gift tax in Portugal, and there's no wealth tax in Portugal. If you look at France, you look at Spain, they have a wealth tax. So every year you pay a tax on what they call your patrimony, your worldwide wealth, you pay a tax to the government. In Portugal you don't, which is a big benefit. And I'd say the biggest of all there's no inheritance tax. So if you move to Portugal, you obtain a Portuguese domicile of choice. Upon leaving assets to spouse and children, there is no inheritance tax, which, as we know in the UK, it's a 40% above your nil rate band. For long-term financial planning, that's a huge driver of settling and retiring in Portugal. So now what I'm going to do, to show you some of the tax benefits and our advice, I'm going to go you through a case study to show you the areas that we advise on and the benefits. So behind me, I don't know if you can see at the back. Can you see okay? The back without me? More or less? Okay, so what we have is we have Mr. and Mrs. Green. They're in their mid-50s. They still run a company, Widget Limited, where they're taking salary and dividends. They've also got pensions that they have accrued in the past, SIPs and other pensions, that they're all still contributing to their company pension scheme. Now, on top of that, they've got their main home in the UK, and they've got the market value there being 750,000 each, and they've got investments, and they've got cash deposits. So, what I do when people come to us is that we look at something called strategic financial planning. We look at the situation in the UK, where they're starting from before they leave the UK. There's no point just arriving in Portugal and then coming to us and saying, this is what I want to do. Because there's many things you can do in the UK before leaving to actually get yourself in a better, more tax optimal position in moving to Portugal. So a couple more facts about Mr. and Mrs. Green is they bought a £1 million villa on the Silver Coast, the beautiful Silver Coast just north of Lisbon. They're moving next summer, but they're going to keep working for the next 2 to 3 years and then retire. And also, they've sold their UK home, so they've got cash available for them. So, the planning there, if we start on NHR, on salaries. So if you move to Portugal and you're still working, any of you wanting to still work, if you have a high value added activity, then under NHR, rather than being taxed at scale rates in Portugal, you would get a 20% income tax on your full amount in terms of your salaries. So Mr. and Mrs. Green would pay a lower tax rate there on the salaries. And on their dividends, Portugal does not, for 10 years under NHR, tax overseas dividends, which is highly attractive. The UK, you need to apply for, that Mr. and Mrs. Green need to apply for disregarded income treatment in the UK, so the UK disregards those dividends in the UK. But moving to Portugal, they would be moving their tax base to Portugal, so their worldwide income and gains are not taxed in the UK anymore, but are taxed in Portugal. Now, there's a lot of pension planning around NHR as well. So NHR on pensions, up until April 2020, there was no tax on overseas pensions under NHR, and Portugal changed it to 10%. However, first of all, what we would be doing with Mr. and Mrs. Green is we'd be looking at those pensions that they're not contributing to anymore. The company pension scheme they're still contributing, we can't look at that at the moment, but the other schemes, for example, their SIPs, the UK SIPs, is they have the option to move to something called QROPs, Qualifying Recognised Overseas Pension Schemes. And the benefits of moving their UK SIPs to really, in a sense, an EU SIP called a QROPs is that they get the pension out of the UK tax net and pension net, so any changes in UK pension legislation in the future they're protected from. There are benefits long-term in terms of death duties to their next of kin, and if they have a lifetime allowance problem, close to the lifetime allowance, then QROPs provides tax advantages there. Now, before leaving the UK, they can take, and they should take, consider taking 25% pension commensurate lump sum in the UK because it's tax-free. However, once they move to Portugal, the rest of the pensions are taxed at 10% under NHR for 10 years. But of course, after the 10 years, those pensions are taxed at scale rates in Portugal. So they should consider drawing down the rest of the pension over the 10 years in Portugal at 10%. And once they've obviously stopped working in 2 to 3 years' time, look at the company pension scheme to see if it's suitable for an overseas scheme as well. Please note at Blevins Franks, we provide a full pensions analysis service, an FCA license, in the sense pension report, overseas transfer report, looking at the suitability of each pension scheme. And that includes defined benefit pensions. At the moment, the CETVs, the cash equivalent transfer values on pensions, are particularly high for the defined benefit schemes. So we provide a full analysis, consolidation service, and best advice on what's best for each individual case. Okay, now on investments. So they've sold the house, they've got cash, they've got ISAs. What should Mr. and Mrs. Green be looking to do? So, first of all, looking at UK ISAs. Now, UK ISAs are great for you living in the UK. However, as soon as Mr. and Mrs. Green move to Portugal, Portugal don't recognise ISAs. So if they move to Portugal, keep those UK ISAs and then sell down to live off those ISAs, Portugal, being the new tax base, will tax those ISAs, any sale of that, those ISAs at 28%. So they should consider selling the ISAs while they still can sell them capital gains tax free in the UK, and looking at sort of tax efficient investments the other side of the fence in Portugal. Those tax efficient investments, the one in Portugal that offers the biggest tax breaks is something called a single premium offshore life policy. It's an insurance bond. And in a sense, it's a capital gains tax shelter similar to a UK ISA, but not the same. What this provides, it provides long-term tax deferral, as it says, in terms of gross roll-up of income and gains. And the longer you hold these, the less tax you pay. 5 and 8 years. And after 8 years, basically the reductions go down to 60% reduction. So on top of that, Mr. and Mrs. Green can look at placing any pension they don't spend during NHR into these single premium offshore life policies, and then having an investment structure long-term to draw down from. So really, in summary, there are a lot of opportunities in terms of moving to Portugal, but in summary, it's about looking at what you have before you leave the UK to take advantage of unused capital gains tax allowances, look at pension commencement lump sums, look at the investments you have to see if restructuring before you leave the UK is the right thing to do. The other side of the fence in Portugal, of course, it's the opportunities under non-habitual residency and structuring things properly. But timing is critical. You should take advice. And at Blevins Franks, we of course provide that advice. We provide an informative newsletter that if you want to subscribe, come to our stand afterwards. If you want to subscribe to that, we send that out to you. We also offer a Living in Portugal book, which is an interesting tax guide, both in terms of leaving UK tax net and coming to Portugal. And we do, if you come and see us at the stand, if you'd like to leave your information, then we can contact you. And if you're visiting Lisbon or Cascais, it would be it could be a pleasure to invite you to our office. Okay, thank you very much for your time.